Well, I want to dig into your story. You're a real estate guy. You're an entrepreneur. We're going to get into all that stuff. But to kick it off, how about some background on you? What's your story? How'd you get into this crazy entrepreneurial world?
Yeah. So became an entrepreneur by, being raised by parents that was always telling me to get a job and just work a 9 to 5 forever. Right. It's kind of the opposite. Right. So
safe route.
That's what I did. Yeah. Safe route. My dad worked, basically, from job to job, corporation, and kind of just worked his way up. And, that was kind of the model I always saw. And that's what I thought that would be successful, right? Just, get good grades, go to a good school, get a good job, and then just climb the corporate ladder until you were 65 years old, right? And had a nice pension or a 401k. And so that's what I did. I followed the American dream model. And when I got a good job and I was in tech for a long time, I thought that I had made it, quote unquote. Thought I'd be successful and that success would equal happiness. And, it didn't, right? The more money I made, the more depressed I got, right? About like, this is not like what I want to be remembered for on my tombstone. And I was in sales and, it was always great to make a President's Club at the end of the year. And that's kind of what your top, 1% of your sales staff goes. And I was like, after I made a couple of those and I was like, what do I want to be remembered for my tombstone? Like someone in my eulogy telling people that, oh yeah, Calvin made 20 P clubs, right? That'd be cool. Like, no, that wasn't like fulfilling at all, right? So that wasn't it, right? And
I can relate. Yeah, man, I hear you.
Yeah. Were you?
I was in sales. Yeah, I was in sales. That was kind of my first. I did all kind of stuff growing up, but ended up as kind of my first. All right, we need to get serious here and join a real company and do that. It was sales, and thank goodness it was, man. What a skill. I mean, that's the skill for entrepreneurs, and we've had some leaders of different companies, I think, that didn't have the sales skills, and that was an oversight. Like you got to have that sales skill, man, as a baseline, I think.
100%. And, if anyone's listening to this and they're still in college or whatever and trying to figure out what they want to do with life, I think sales is fantastic because everything is sales after, school, whether it's with your wife or, in business. It's an awesome skill to have. And it does actually teach you entrepreneurship aspects. You're kind of an entrepreneur at that point, right? Being, in a company. And I mean, you are going to make money if you put the time out and you're going to be smart about it. So you have to kind of build your own business within that business. So it is an awesome skill to have. And I'm super grateful to have learned that skill, even though, beginning it sucks, right? You're making, cold calls and all that stuff that you probably know, right? But it teaches you so much about life and entrepreneurship. But I got to a point in my life there where I was like, you know what, like I need to find something else. Right. And I remember going home vividly one night and just typing into Google, how do I quit my job? How do I like live, off stuff? And, real estate came up a lot. Right. And so I started reading the books and listening to podcasts and things like that. And
when was this? Kind of what time frame was this when you're starting?
This was in 2015.
Okay.
2015. Yeah. And so, started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, listening to Bigger Pockets, all that stuff, and just, giving myself as much knowledge as possible, joining the masterminds. And to be honest, like full transparency, it was way over my head. Like there was so much stuff, like acronyms, like you're drinking out a fire hose, and it just felt really heavy. And I was like, you know what, let me just do it tomorrow. Right. And let me do it next week. Let me do it next month, next year. Right. And, it was getting stuck into that analysis paralysis stage of just like, I didn't feel confident that I knew what I was doing. And I was scared, right? I was fearful that I would lose all my money that I worked so hard on. So eventually got to a point where I was fed up and I was like, you know what, I just got to go do something. I got to stop talking about it. I just got to do it. Right. And I had this wise idea of like, let me go and be a private money lender for a flipper out here in California.
All right.
That way I'll be a real estate investor. I'll learn that way. And so that's what I did. Right. So we found a flipper, me, my wife, girlfriend at the time, but wife now. And we found a flipper. We had saved up about 100K, 50K each in our savings account, and went to this flipper, gave her private money loan, handshake deal, closing table. After she sold it, went to get her check, and she said, Calvin, I don't have your money.
Right? Dang it, man. This is like a family friend or
no, just like someone that we met at a meetup, right? That we thought, was a good person. And that was our first foray into real estate, right? And,
I appreciate the transparency, man. A lot of times on podcasts, it's all the highlights.